Welcome to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on January 26th. Utah Jazz are quickly approaching the trade deadline and the All-Star break.
Yes.
So there are some things going on. And in fact, tonight, there is a little bit of news before we get to the schedule. It sounds like they will announce the Rookie Rising Stars Challenge participants tonight.
Okay.
So expect to hear that tonight. I imagine Ace Bailey will be a part of it. I
Yes.
don't think Walt will. I don't think Walt's going to make it.
I agree.
And I don't know. They still do rookies and sophomores?
Yes.
So will the Jazz have second-year players that step up and make that jump? Flip would be kind of an obvious name to keep an eye on. Isaiah Collier's been very good. In fact, Isaiah has been better than Flip this year, I think. So maybe the Jazz will have several participants.
Yeah, I agree with you. Ace Bailey is a lock for me. And then I think some of the second-year players, I agree, probably not Walt, but with Flip and Isaiah, and even I doubt Cody will make it, but he's been better as of late.
He's been much better, yeah.
So I would place my money on the over of 1.5 Jazz players in that game, but we will see tonight.
6:30 Eastern, so 4:30 our time. So maybe by the time you're listening to this, it's already been announced. But 21 NBA players, rookies, and sophomores. So 4 teams. I don't know why 21 is the number. Let's go odd. Yeah, I don't think there's.
Oh, is it because they're doing G League players again?
They might be.
So maybe it's 28 total with like 7 G League guys?
It's very possible. But yeah, a 4-team competition at NBA All-Star Weekend featuring 21 NBA players. Huh. And 7 G League players. You're exactly right.
Okay.
It's good math. Yeah, way to put that together. So yeah, we'll see.
Yes. Let's get right into the week that was for the Utah Jazz. A 3-game slate started with a win over the Timberwolves. We can talk about that game specifically in a second. 127-122, and then back-to-back losses. First to San Antonio, 126-109, and then most recently a loss to the Heat, a blowout, 147-116. I wanted to talk about that Timberwolves game because I think it's a contender for the best Jazz game of the year. Maybe behind the season opener against the Clippers, because that game was kind of ridiculous. The Jazz shot the lace off the net in that one. But this one, you have Keontae George with his career-high 43 points. You have Yusuf Nurkic with a triple-double, which at the time was an
We're like, we'll never see this again.
Yes. And then you also had Isaiah Collier had an awesome game, 18 points, 10 assists, and then Ace Bailey, a 20-point game for him as well.
It was just a game full of a lot of excitement and great dunks, and Anthony Edwards almost took over. Yeah, it was a great game.
Yeah.
I argued last week I think might be the best game of the season. And not best win. You beat San Antonio on the second night of a back-to-back. You beat Detroit, who's the best team in the Eastern Conference, second best record overall. I don't know if it's, on par with those as far as the victory goes. And Minnesota lost 4 straight. Like that was in the midst of a 4-game losing streak, including a loss to the Bulls. So it's not like you got championship caliber Minnesota Timberwolves, but I will say that was maybe the most entertaining game.
Yes.
And Jazz needed to pull out some big shots late, and they found a way to get it done.
And then follow that up, like I mentioned, back-to-back losses to San Antonio and the Heat. I will say the biggest thing that stuck out to me, don't get me wrong, Ace Bailey had 25 in the Spurs game. He had a really solid week. But what was sticking out to me was Cody Williams. He had 12 points, 7 rebounds against the Spurs. And then if I look at his stats against the Heat, it was only 5 points, but I tweeted this out during that game. Like his defense at a lot of points was awesome. I love watching him on defense. And then Bryce Sensabaugh, also worth mentioning, in that Heat game had 23 off the bench. Sort of picked it up after a slow start in the third and fourth quarters.
We were kind of joking on Media Row about, did Bryce Sensabaugh's 43-point game, was that bad for him? Because now he's kind of wants that. And I don't know if that's who Bryce Sensabaugh is. It's nice that if you can do that occasionally, but like that can't be your idea of like every time I step on the floor, that's the bar I've set for myself. I don't think that's good for Bryce, actually. And that doesn't mean that scoring 43 is bad. Like that'll get him another contract. Actually, it's very good for Bryce. But as far as like what the Jazz need from him is not a 43-point outing when nobody else is in the lineup.
Yes.
The Jazz do need 12 points on 45% three-point shooting every night. That's what the Jazz would really kill for. And Bryce, he's just so emotional still. He just wears his heart on his sleeve. You can absolutely tell, the relief if he's been on a cold streak when a shot goes in, or how frustrated he gets when it's not going in. You gotta find a way to find some middle ground there for Bryce. And so him having a nice game against Miami and against San Antonio was pretty solid. Worth noting, you brought up Cody. You're exactly right. I tweeted out because I broke down every shot he's taken since January 1st. And it is funny, if you go from the baseline to 14 feet out, which coincides with the break in the three-point line, you've got that straight side on the out-of-bounds line on either side. From the baseline, 14 feet, anything in there, from the corner in the paint, whatever, is a really good shot for Cody. In fact, I think in the corners right now, he's shooting like 44% from 3 since January 1st. I'd have to go back and look at that, but that's a great shot. Corner threes are good shots for Cody.
Yes.
He gets them open. Will Hardy's system is designed to have two guys in the corner at all times. So if he can hit that, like he's going to stick. Yeah. Like it's that simple for him. And that's what we talked about is like, what are going to be your 2 or 3 shots for Cody? Because we like him as a defensive player. He can certainly move. He's got good size. He understands kind of just like innate space deletion, like how to fill gaps defensively to make sure that there's not open opportunities for the other team to move the ball. And he's got to get stronger. Guys still push him out of the way and back him into the paint and score over him. But I think those things will come because he's getting stronger. He's going to continue to get much bigger. But he needed to find 2 or 3 shots in his diet that were going to be consistent. And he suddenly loves dunking the ball and gets a ton of dunks. I have a dunk counter running every game now. Like, does he dunk or does he not? He does almost every game. And now he's hitting corner threes. It's like, dude, that's it. That's literally your ticket to be a longtime NBA player. Be a good defensive player who hits corner threes and dunks when they close out too hard. Like, you would love it if he could have turned into Peyton Watson or whoever these kind of young wings that are very exciting are. That's not what most of the NBA is. Most of the NBA is role players who are good at their role. And Cody is figuring it out. And the fact that he figured it out midway through his second season after how difficult his first year was is really promising. And that means there's pathway for him to get even better and add more shots to it. But right now, he needed something to give teams a reason to think he should be in the league, and he's done that.
In the Heat game, Jaime Jaquez, who is likely going to be a $20 million guy, like a part of the Heat's future, he shot 4 for 10, and a lot of that was because of Cody Williams on him. Like, Jaime Jaquez is the type of player, he'll give you one move and then get downhill. Like, it's a cross, get to the interior of the lane and go up. There was so many times where he did that move and then Cody just stuck with him and he had to pass off. Yep. Like, you see that a lot of times with Cody Williams as the on-ball defender, and you love to see it. One last thing, we can't talk about this last week without talking about Jusuf Nurkic. Yeah. In the first game, I mentioned he had a triple-double. Followed that with 2 more triple-doubles, all 3 games, 3 straight. First ever Jazz player to have 3 straight triple-doubles. 2 straight was done by Pistol Pete Maravich.
In 1975.
Yes.
It's been a while.
And the 3 triple-doubles moves him into 3rd, I believe.
It's tied with Karl Malone and Andrei Kirilenko for the most triple-doubles in Jazz history.
Yes.
And he had his first one on Tuesday.
In 1 week, he did that.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Will Hardy kind of downplayed it after the game. He's like, individual stats are cool, but we lost by 30. He's exactly right. But at the same time, Will left Jusuf Nurkic in to get that final rebound and subbed him out immediately after. Like, the Jazz are very aware of this. But yeah, Nurkic over the last 3 games is averaging, see if I can get the numbers exactly, 16.7 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists. And, I think it would be foolish to not at least acknowledge that this is coming right before the trade deadline.
Yes.
It's just, if you want to trade him, he says he doesn't want to get traded, or at least that's kind of the impression he's given. Kevin Love doesn't want to get traded. These veteran bigs are enjoying their time in Utah and aren't necessarily looking to be shipped somewhere and have to start over again. I totally understand that. But he's playing well at the right time, like eye-catchingly well. Now, his plus-minus numbers are bad, but the Jazz are losing games. Yeah. But if you're a team who needs a guy who can come in and eat 20 minutes a night for the next 35 games and then maybe be able to give you some time in the playoffs with an expiring contract, so it's not a long-term commitment, Nurk is not a bad option.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I will say, you mentioned the keeping him in for that rebound. I think other than that, there wasn't really any times where I was like, oh, he's definitely like stat padding or like trying to get that assist specifically. It seemed like almost all of it came within the flow of the offense, which is funny because I think his first triple-double of the week was the second of his career, right?
Yep.
So
yeah. No, it is a change in how the Jazz are operating. They're having Keontae George do less, and having Nurk do more. My co-host on my show, Jake Scott, he kind of floated the idea, and he does a pre-half and post. Like, he's watching these games. He kind of floated the idea that maybe that's how the Jazz are losing games, though. Like, on purpose. Like, take the ball out of Keontae's hands without taking Keontae out of the game. Like, how do you keep Keontae from just sitting games but not winning you games? Because truthfully, Keontae is too good.
Yeah.
Keontae, if you're trying to win 8 games the rest of the season, if you just let Keontae go for it, you're going to win 11 games, 12 games. Like, Keontae's playing at that high of a level. Well, if you take the ball out of his hands a little bit, which is not a bad idea, like, this is still experimental zone. Like, figure out what these guys can do. Figure out what Keontae can do off the ball if you have a big. Do you have to have a big like Nurkic for Keontae to be successful going forward? And we get mailbag questions about this, will he continue to perform at this level when Walker comes back? Like, those are questions the Jazz have to answer maybe in the next 13 or 9 days, 10 days is when the trade deadline is. Like, you may need to know more about Walker, even if he's not on the floor, by figuring out what Keontae needs from a big man before you decide whether or not you're going to trade anybody or keep him around. So it's not irresponsible of the Jazz to figure it out. In fact, you're trying to collect all your data points, but that might be part of the reason is you can lose with Nurk getting a triple-double. Yeah. It's kind of a win-win because his trade value goes up, you get a sense of what he's doing, and you're not winning games.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think I want to double down on that sort of experimentation point because say the Jazz get Cam Boozer, maybe you in a couple of years are running your offense through a big anyways, and now you know what that looks like with Keontae.
You have some sense. You have some proof in the past to show you can do it.
Yeah. Okay, really quick, we're going to talk on the next week for the Jazz, and then we're going to revisit our Jazz Awards. First, though, 4-game slate until we come back next Monday. 3 games at home in a row, starting against the Clippers. That game is tomorrow on Tuesday, and then host the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday, a back-to-back. Host the Brooklyn Nets on Friday, and then hit the road going up north to Toronto on Sunday.
Jazz will probably, I'm thinking 1-2, at least on this homestand.
Yeah.
And Toronto's been playing well, right? Yeah. Toronto's got some injuries with their bigs, but yeah, I'd say 1-3. I mean, the Jazz are probably going to beat Brooklyn. Brooklyn's losing every game by 35 points now. Yes. Suddenly you text me. Or, no, my wife texted me yesterday. You text me when they lost by 50 to the Knicks.
Scored 66 total points.
It was 47-14 in the second quarter yesterday. They had 14 points in the second quarter.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Jazz aren't going to catch them. In fact, let's look at the standings really quick.
Okay.
Just because we like to do that. And it's looking really solid for the Jazz to finish with the 6th worst record in the NBA right now. Like, this might be boring. Last year there was a lot of like, the Wizards going to catch them. What's happening with the Pelicans? All these different teams around there. This might just not be all that exciting by the end of the year. They are 2 games better than the Nets. The Nets are 12-32, and the Jazz are 15-31. So 2 games better, and the Hornets are 3 games better than the Jazz. So like, the rest of these teams are pretty close. Like Sacramento is the 4th worst record in the NBA, but they're within a half game of the 3 teams below them. The Jazz have this weird buffer around them, and it seems like every time the Jazz beat a Minnesota or beat a Cleveland or whoever it is, you look down the rest of the schedule and like, oh, well, Dallas also just won at New York, or Charlotte is winning in Chicago or whatever, beating Denver, I think is what that was that same night. Like, every time the Jazz win, those other 2 teams in front of them win, and every time the Jazz lose, the teams behind them lose. So they're not moving at all in the standings. And there's only 37 games left, or whatever it is, 36 games left. As you get closer here to the end of the season, it gets hard to make up ground.
Yes,
that just might be where the Jazz are, which means they're going to have a 96-ish% chance of holding on to their draft pick.
Even though they are closest to Brooklyn in terms of falling further, I think the only hope is really Sacramento, just because. Like, I know Sacramento has their pick, but like if you look at their roster, it's a lot of vets, and we've talked about vets win games. And also they have the 2nd easiest strength of schedule, which doesn't really mean a whole lot. But yeah, I agree with you. I think like last year it took a Bub Carrington game winner on the last game of the year to figure out what the standings were going to be.
I would also, I know they've been pathetic. I would keep an eye on New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans has won 2 straight. They did just win a good game. They beat the Spurs in San Antonio, I think, last night. They're going to trade DeJounte. Well, they're going to try and trade DeJounte Murray and Jordan Poole. Again, they don't have any reason to tank.
Yeah.
So while these teams around them are tanking, as they start to catch them up, in fact, I can look at what games they have left. They might pick up a couple of wins over some other bad teams, and maybe that's how they get up to 21, 22 wins because they don't have any reason to tank it late in the season. Maybe they do find a way to get that done. Let's see. New Orleans has this is per tankathon, 19th easiest schedule remaining, or 19th most difficult, I guess is how we should say it. So 11th easiest, 19th most difficult. And they still have games against the Wizards, 3 against the Kings, 3 against the Jazz. I would really keep an eye on those games. Yes. 1 against the Hornets, 2 against the Bucks, 1 against Dallas. So like, if you're going to beat San Antonio here and there occasionally, can you pick up how many total wins they have? They have 12 wins on the season. The Jazz have 15. Can they win 3 more games than the Jazz over the final 35, 36? Yes. They haven't been good at all this year, but maybe they could. So maybe that's the team that could push the Jazz down to the 5. And again, if the Jazz have the 5th worst record in the NBA, I believe it's a 0.4% chance of the Jazz dropping to 9 and losing the pick. So 6th, I think you're totally fine with. We've said that a lot all throughout the year. I think even if you're at 5, you're basically guaranteed to hold on to it.
this. Do you want to do our Jazz Awards end of the first half or start the second half with it?
No, let's do it right now.
Okay. So at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, we talk about our Jazz Awards, which is basically giving the major NBA awards specifically to Jazz players. MVP, Defensive Player, Rookie, Sixth Man, Most Improved, and Clutch Player. Preseason, we both had Lowry as MVP, Walker as Defensive Player, Ace as Rookie of the Year. We both had Ace as the Clutch Player of the Year. And then where we differed was you had Bryce for Most Improved. I had Keontae. You had Bryce for Sixth Man. I had Flip.
Okay.
Let's start with MVP.
Okay.
I think we can agree on this one. I had Keontae George.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the MVP so far, just because Lowry has not played that many games.
Yes.
And if we want to do the 65 games thing, where you have to play 65 to qualify, like Lowry's not going to get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Keontae's probably been the Jazz's most valuable player. I still think when they've been on the floor, Lowry is the Jazz's best player.
Yes,
he's averaging 28 points a game. He's having probably the best year of his career. He's just not on the floor very often, or at least hasn't been recently. But so far this season, I think unquestionably it's been Keontae George. He's been really impressive and made a jump that the Jazz just very desperately need, and you just cannot heap enough praise on him.
Yes.
There was also a stat today, Dean Oliver, who I think used to work for the Trailblazers, does a lot of advanced analytics stuff. He was looking at clutch defensive numbers, and Keontae's been one of the best clutch defenders in the NBA. It's like, it does pass the eye test. Like, in close games, teams aren't just targeting Keontae and burning him for layups, which used to be the case. It was just really easy to beat the Jazz. You would screen Keontae onto whoever, and then you would beat Keontae. Now you're starting to see, like, oh, he's staying with guys. He's cutting off drives. He's recovering. He's getting back. He's switching. You'll get it occasionally, and sometimes it's just luck of the draw of, like, is the mic in the right spot and isn't the camera in the right spot? Watch this if you're a Jazz fan. Watch dead ball, out of bounds plays. So the other team has the ball. Listen for Keontae yelling what the play is about to be. Like Yusuf Nurkic gets Nikola Jokic gets a lot of credit for this. Like, he knows every play in the NBA. Rudy Gobert was really good at this too. Listen for Keontae to call out pin down or whatever they're like, what play is about to happen, what they're about to run to make sure everything gets switched. Like, he's dialed in. He really gets it. It's kind of cool to watch.
Next up, Most Improved. I'm sticking with Keontae. That was my preseason pick. I think you could, if we want to have some Keontae George voter fatigue, you can say Cody Williams for this.
Cody's in the conversation. You know who should be actually on the list is Yusuf Nurkic.
Oh, yeah.
Nurk,
True.
no question about it. Like, again, remember, at this point last year, exactly 12 months ago, the Phoenix Suns attached a first-round draft pick to get off of Yusuf Nurkic, not to get Mark Williams back. They made that trade in the offseason on draft night. They had to send another pick to Charlotte to get that center back. So they sent the Hornets 2 first-round picks, I think, within 6 months of each other. But yeah, they had to use a first-round draft pick, a la the Derek Favors trade, which the Jazz are now submarining to make sure they don't give that pick up. But they had to do that to get off of Nurk's deal. And now Nurk is like, might bring you back something at the trade deadline if you decide to move him. So he's really been much better. Nurk's been a very pleasant surprise for the Jazz this year.
So is Nurk your pick?
I'll go with Nurk so far. I mean, it's Keontae.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Keontae's almost an all-star. But I'll go fatigue, vote, Yusuf Nurkic, with Cody being my number 3.
Okay. Next up, Defensive Player of the Year. This would have been, I assume, a lot easier pick if Walker did not get injured in the first week or 2 of the season. Because of that, and I don't know if he's technically the best defender, but I wrote Cody Williams for this one.
Yeah, I think Cody, absolutely. Yeah. I'd go with Cody there as well. He's not an elite defensive player. He moves elitely. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, all the things are there. All the pieces are there. And he had 3 blocks the other night against Miami, and, the Jazz couldn't stop anybody. But, like, Cody's even starting to pick up some of those things. Like, it's like, oh, he's an on-ball shot blocker now when he gets into passing lanes, and he's always in the right spot. Again, as he fills out, and his dad has filled out, his brother filled out, like, Cody will fill out. Cody's going to be a big dude.
Oh, yeah.
He could be a really good defensive player. Like, it really could come along for him. So, I'll feel comfortable sticking with Cody.
Another easy one, Rookie of the Year, Ace Bailey. I think that's Walt has had his moments this year. He's also sort of struggled basically since the new year. So because of that, I think Ace is the easy pick.
Ace is the easy pick.
Yes. And then Sixth Man of the Year. I had all my picks ready for this one. I wrote a question mark. It's between a few different players. Also because similar to last year, the Jazz have experimented with a lot of different starting lineups, a lot of players coming on and off of the bench. Isaiah Collier has 38 games played and only 5 starts, so he's in this conversation. Bryce Sensabaugh, 43 games played, 9 starts. I think it really is between those two. You could also maybe argue Kevin Love.
Agreed.
And Walt Clayton also at 41 games and 0 starts.
I'm going to go with Isaiah Collier.
Okay.
I think it has been Isaiah. I think Isaiah has been low-key really good. In fact, he probably should be getting some votes in our Most Improved Player Award because some of the things we have said, Isaiah has to do this. He's done.
Yes.
He's not turning the ball over anymore, 2.3 turnovers a game, which is not nothing, but 6.6 assists to 2.3 rebounds is good. I mean, that's much better than 2 for 1 or 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And he's shooting 34% from 3. And like when he shoots, I'm like, oh, that has a real chance to go in. Where last year you're just like, this is a heave. This is a bomb. You have no idea what's happening here. And he's taken 1.5 a game, and he makes one about every 3 games. So he makes more than a third of his threes right now. He looks really confident doing it. Free throws still don't go in at a high enough rate, 65% for a guy who should be able to live at the free throw line with his speed. That's got to get better. But, Isaiah's been good. I think he's been the Jazz's most consistently good six-man or bench unit player this year.
I agree with you. I think I would have gone Isaiah Collier, but so that we aren't the same on almost every single one, I will pick Bryce Sensabaugh. He had the 43-point game. Like you mentioned, Collier has the consistency that Bryce really doesn't. I think me and you both had high hopes for Bryce coming into the season off of what he did in Summer League. He was awesome in Summer League. Kind of a similar story to Flip, ironically. But I will go Bryce just because when he is on, I think he is a great pick for a six-man for the Jazz.
Isaiah Collier, better three-point percentage this year than Bryce Sensabaugh.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Now, Bryce takes 5 a game. It's a different conversation. But, like, if we had said that before the season, I mean, I was hyping up Bryce as, like, his shooting might be the best individual skill on the Jazz's team because of how he finished last year and then what we saw in the Summer League. And it's just not been there for him. Like, he's got a lot of – and he was good against Miami. I think he was 4 of 5. He's the only guy who could hit a shot against Miami. But he also has some, like, 1 of 6 games, you know? It's just like, where is it? Why isn't it dialed in? Anyways.
Last and probably least for the awards is clutch player. I had Keontae because I think I can have multiple moments in my head where I'm thinking of clutch Keontae moments from this year.
No question, it's Keontae.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keontae's been insane. Late games, it's where you want the ball to be, and he hits the 3 to beat Chicago, or did that send it to overtime against Chicago? Here in Salt Lake,
I think it sent it to overtime because that was the double OT game, right?
Yeah. He's had a ton of huge clutch buckets. He had a big one. What was there? They had a weird win here in Salt Lake City. He hit the little floater over somebody. I can't remember what that game was now in retrospect. I should be able to. There's only been 15 wins, but yeah, man, he's doing it on both ends of the floor. He's been really good.
Really quick, we'll run through this, then we'll head into the break. Both had Keontae for MVP. Both had Cody Williams for Defensive Player. Both had Ace for Rookie of the Year. We agreed on Keontae as the clutch player. And then you had Isaiah Collier for Six Man of the Year. I picked Bryce Sensabaugh. You had Yusuf Nurkic for Most Improved, and I stuck with Keontae George.
Okay, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get to your mailbag questions. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, we always like to end the second half of our show with our mailbag. I only put these on Twitter today. I'm sorry, I was on remote for my show, so I was just a little busy. So I didn't put them on Blue Sky, but we got a lot of questions still. And I don't think I have any DMs from the last week. So anyways, let's just start up with what we got on Twitter.
Okay, first up from Jake the Lynx. He says, what is going on with the Walker situation? I think he could end up being a really good player for the Jazz. How bad is the relationship between Walker and the front office? Is it unsalvageable? Why is he so frustrated? It seems like he would understand the Jazz having more cap space for him if they just wait 1 year to sign, and then Walker still gets paid in a good contract.
Yeah, and look, that's just kind of the business part of it, and there are these weird relationships, and I know Jazz fans are particularly scarred about it because of the Gordon Hayward situation. This is not that uncommon, actually, and it gets a little awkward and it gets a little hairy, but this happens at everyone's job. Like if you have to negotiate a pay raise and your boss doesn't want to give it to you, you get mad at your boss, and then 2 weeks later, you're still there and you're happy that you have a job. Like that these guys are just normal people in that sense. So I'm sure there's some frustration. The difference is between you at your job and Walker Kessler at his job is like there's 29 other teams that would love to have him, and there's probably not 29 other businesses that know who you are.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of Walker questions here, and I know it's kind of a thing, and Tim McMahon talked about the Washington Wizards wanting to maybe be interested in giving him a big deal. The one thing I will tell you, and look, like I've talked to Ryan Smith about this, like because I've talked to him like, what's different about being like an owner versus being a fan? Because, he grew up a fan of the Jazz, and like, what's the difference there? And he said, what you don't understand is, he was talking about Danny Ainge specifically and Justin Zanuck, but obviously this applies to Austin. He's like, you think as a fan 1 step away they think 12 steps down the line. Like, you can't just game plan, well, what happens if we don't sign Walker? Like, we'll save money. Well, that's not what it was about, actually. And they thought about, well, if we don't sign Walker now, what do we do at the deadline? What do we do at the deadline? If this team comes in and offers money, what do we do at the deadline? If this happens, and it's like they think, and then what's the fallout if Walker's on the team? What's the fallout if Walker's not on the team? Like, the one thing I will tell you, because I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, we're 10 days away from the trade deadline. I've told you, I've said it on the show several times. Like, I know teams have come inquiring about Walker Kessler. I think the Jazz have probably entertained at least some of those trade ideas. Like, you have to. It's your job.
Yeah.
Would you get better by trading Walker? Are you better by holding on to him? How much is it going to cost you to keep him? The Jazz have thought about all of these things. So while we don't know, you can take comfort in the Jazz being prepared for whatever happens if you're a Jazz fan. They're not going to go in and just get caught with their pants down and be like, oh, I didn't see that happening. Yes, they did. Yeah. They game plan all of these ideas. So they're crazy about it. Their lives are on the line. Their livelihoods, I should say, are on the line, not their actual lives. Austin Ainge gets to live, even if the Jazz have a bad trade at the trade deadline. But yeah, if you are worried about it, the Jazz have thought about it.
Yes.
Just that's the only place I'd put it. But I wouldn't think anything's like unsalvageable. Yeah, you're gonna have to come to a middle ground. That's how negotiations work. That's life. That's the whole world. No player makes as much money as they want unless they sign a max contract. And then the guys who are like, do you know, I promise you, and Shea fired his agent before he negotiated his last deal. Do you know what Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's thoughts were when he was signing his $54 million deal? Man, this should be 70. Yeah. I'm the best player in the NBA, and I'm 26. This should be a $70 million deal. I'm better than every other loser on this team. He didn't say that. But, why am I only making 54? I guarantee you that's the thought that's going through his head. It's like, I'm capped at this number? What could I get if there was no cap on how much I could make? Like, that's how those guys are thinking. So everyone always wants more money.
Adding on to that, with the front office stuff, I think a lot of fans don't realize, they don't just take calls at the trade deadline. They don't just turn their heads to scouting a couple days a week when it's time for draft season. It is a full-time and then some job. They are doing all this stuff. They are thinking the steps ahead. And I agree. I don't think... honestly, if I were to bet, I would say Walker is on this team next year.
So would I. Absolutely. So. And the conversations I had after, I straight up asked, and I'm not going to tell you who I was talking to, but talking to people with the team of is Walker getting an extension this summer? And this was last summer. They said no. This wasn't ever going to happen last summer. Yeah. They always knew this is the case they were going to be in, but they also said, no, we're going to pay him next summer. That was literally what I was told. We're going to pay him next summer. They said you can't continuously stick in a rebuild over and over by letting your players go or trading away your young players. That's a cycle you can't get trapped in. The whole plan of last season was to pay Walker this summer. Yeah. Now, they could change their minds. You play the hand you're dealt. That could certainly shift. But the last time I truly checked in on it, that's almost verbatim what I was told.
Next up from Jake the Lynx, Lowry famously really liked the bright yellow jerseys. What do the players think of the current jerseys? Is there a consensus favorite jersey among the players, or do they not care because it's just a work uniform?
I have not asked. For a lot of people, it is just a work uniform. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're excited to see it the first time they see it. And then they're like, what are we wearing today? Purple? Okay, I'll wear these shoes. Yeah. Or what, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And even then, that might be the ball boy's job. That might be equipment design or equipment manager. So, yeah, Lowry liked the yellow jerseys, and it was notable because everyone hated the yellow jerseys except for me and Lowry. So I think that is why he liked them. Not because people hated them, but that's why it was a story. And I think players like the jerseys. Yeah. But, I don't think it's it's what do you care? You know what I mean? I don't mean what do you care as a fan? You care about everything. That's great. That's good for us, certainly. But, the players are just I don't care if it's purple. I don't care if it says Jazz or Celtics on the front. The best part is the NBA. Yeah. Being in the NBA and salary that comes with it, all that stuff.
Next up from Dan Benner, assuming the Jazz keep their pick this year with the expectation of that becoming a future piece, is it guaranteed they are aggressive in free agency, or do they just let the young guys develop, especially with the Keontae and Walker contracts upcoming?
We touched on this last Thursday. There is a real argument, or there's a real chance, because I've just heard this so many times. Mm-hmm. They might just say our free agent addition this offseason was Walker Kessler. Yeah. Right? He didn't play last year. We had this breakout. Keontae's so good now. Lowry's so good. Ace is going to be a really good player. Cody's on the rise. I think Walt's going to be good. Now we're bringing in a starting center that the Washington Wizards wanted to spend $150 million on, or whatever money they were willing to spend on him. All those, you say, yeah, we signed him. We signed a $150 million center. That was our investment in the team. I could absolutely see that. Yes. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think that's somewhat likely, because it gives you even another year to keep your gunpowder dry and decide, like, what do we actually need?
Yeah.
Because you could go out there and spend a bunch of money and say, I think this team needs this, and I think this team needs this, and they need a 3-and-D, and go sign Peyton Watson. And look, if the right opportunity presents itself, do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely don't be afraid of that. And again, I floated the idea, I think they should trade the pick if it's not top 3 or 4. Like, you don't need another 7th overall pick on this year's team. They'll probably keep it just because that's what teams do. But I floated that idea. But yeah, maybe you don't know what they look like with Walker Kessler. Maybe you want to have a little bit more information first. So I can see that absolutely.
I honestly would argue that it might be smart for the Jazz to just roll out next year, but get rid of all of the restraints that they've had this year and last year.
No long-term deals, nothing stuck in, still maintain that flexibility.
Yes, exactly. Like, you have Walker, you have Cody, who's expected to get better, Taylor, who's expected to get more comfortable, Walt will get better, Ace is going to get a lot better.
Yep.
You have all these pieces, and I think another year of building without the chains that have maybe been holding them back would be good for the team.
Yep. And then figure out what to do.
Yes. Next up from Sam, at what point do we start talking about the Celtics sending a first-round pick for Yusuf? Kidding, kind of.
Obviously I don't think that's going to happen. You know what I mean? And the Celtics, I do think they own their pick this year. It's why some people were talking about this being a leap year for them or a gap year and tanking and getting Cam Boozer, and then starting back up with Jason Tatum coming back. And obviously they're way too good for that, so their pick is going to be 24, 25. They still need young talent on this roster.
Yeah.
They need to hit. They need so many teams keep their championship hopes alive by adding a late first-round pick that can play. I mean, Peyton Watson right now was putting the Denver Nuggets in a contender spot because he has hit and Christian Brown has hit. Like, it's a really bad gamble to make. Is like, I think we can draft enough young guys to replace Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or whoever they need to. That's a dangerous game to play, and most often teams lose that way. But if you do hit, it does keep that window open. Denver's benefiting from it right now, and I'm sure the Celtics would like to continue to play that way. Now, here's the thing. The Celtics have to know that they're not going to beat whoever comes out of the West with or without Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difficult part of it. Now, could they get back to the finals? I guess maybe. And then he comes off your books. And the reason Nurkic to the Celtics makes sense is because not only is it a position of need, but he would help their salary cap if you were to get Anthony Simons back. Like, it saves $5 million or whatever. We've talked about this a couple of times. And, you know, now you're in the repeater tax, so you do multiply 4 by whatever it is, 5, 6, 4, whatever the repeater tax number is for them. And they end up saving $10, $12, $13 million, maybe more, by shedding that salary.
Yes.
That's why it makes sense. It's still a salary cap deal, not a let's improve and try and win a title with Yusuf Nurkic deal.
Yes, I agree. Next up from Spence Johnson, plainly, do you see the Jazz making any trades at the deadline?
Yes.
Yes. I think, like, Jazz fans should be happy that your front office isn't like the Chicago Bulls' front office, who just never do anything.
Hands in their pockets.
Yes.
Orlando Magic, even though I know they just traded Desmond Bane away, but like never makes trades, or for Desmond Bane, I should say. Yeah, Jazz will be active. They'll tinker.
Yeah. Yes.
But I'm not expecting fireworks. Agreed. I think it's probably going to be a very boring trade deadline for the Jazz. But, you know, you've got George Niang, who's not suited up this year.
Yeah.
Like, you could trade George. Like, he's not played, so teams will get his medicals and say, oh, his foot's basically ready to play. I don't have any idea. But considering when I talked to people in the offseason, they were like, yeah, November. So either his foot is jacked, or the Jazz just aren't playing George Niang.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll trade him and get some of that $7 million off their books. I think he has a non-guaranteed deal next year. I'd have to look at what George's contract is. I can do that really quick. But yeah, the Jazz will find something to do.
Yes, and it's like even if it's not a 1-for-1 trade, maybe they hop in as the third team to help facilitate something at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. And can probably eat some money from somebody else. Let's see, George Niang's contract. Sorry, I looked this up last week. I've been looking at a lot of contracts lately. Last year of his $8.2 million. Yeah. So coming off the books, that's an easy one to send. You know, and look, take $12 million back for George Niang, save somebody a bunch of money, and no harm, no foul.
Yes. Next up from Jesse, has Walker's injury or Nurk's strong play shifted leverage on a potential Jazz Kessler contract this summer?
Not from Walker's camp's perspective.
Yes.
Walker's camp's, I don't care if you like Yusuf Nurkic. You want us to take less money because Nurkic played well? That's the stupidest thing I've heard. And that's not saying the question is stupid. It's the right question. What it does do for the Jazz is, what if they do truly get to a number with Walker that they say $200 million? And I don't know what Walker's max can be, but like, you're going to give Walker that much money coming off of a shoulder injury? Good luck. Yeah. Like, all yours. We'll just run with Yusuf Nurkic for the next year and buy ourselves time to find another center. Like, That's where the Jazz might find some leverage. It's just the leverage of comfort.
Yes.
Of they are not going to be, pressed to sign Walker hell or high water because they feel like, well, we've got a starting center who can step in, and we'll wait until Daniel Gafford becomes available or whatever it is. And other teams may, see Walker as like the best young center in the NBA right now. Obviously not, Wemby's around, but like one of the best young available centers around. And they'll really pay a huge price for him. Where the Jazz see like, he's closer to Miles Turner or whatever. However the Jazz view him, I actually don't know.
Next up from Cody Williams, Island founder, great name.
Okay.
Do you really believe?
I mean, he was a lottery pick, not exactly out there on your own.
Do you really believe Utah will do what it takes to keep this pick in the last 35 games? Some of these, they may be to sit Nurk, Lowry, and Key.
Yes, they absolutely will. The longer they can go without sitting Keontae George, I think the happier they will be. It is worth noting, because I've had this feeling too. I'm like, man, it really kind of seems like the Jazz are winning too many games. Just point of note, they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of their last 14. Like they're 3-11 in their last 14. Like they lose tomorrow. And they're 3-12. Well, that's what we've talked about. The Jazz need to go 1-4 in every 5-game stretch. That's basically what they need to do. And if you do that, let's see, I'll try and do math on the air really quickly. 35-ish games left. You go 1-5, you're going to get 6 wins the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like that's just keeping up this pace. And that pace includes wins over Cleveland, Minnesota, and Dallas. Mm-hmm. Like you might not even win that many games. So as long as you do this, which is what they've been doing since that goes back to January 10th. And look. Oh, no, that goes back to December 30th. So that's since the new year. You have that pace the rest of the way. Yeah, you're gonna cruise to having this pick. So they're already doing what it takes, and they will do more if they have to. I
agree. And I think down the stretch, like we're getting to the real we're already in the dog days, getting to like the nitty-gritty where playoff teams are going to start picking it up to try and improve their seeding. And when the Jazz are playing bad teams who are in the lottery discussion with them, like I would be the exact opposite of surprised if, Yusuf Nurkic is sick. Keontae hurt his finger last game, so you two can't play against the Pelicans.
Yeah, that forearm that he played through, he doesn't play through next time. And look, the Jazz can just sit him, and the Jazz can just sit Nurkic. Like they don't qualify towards the player participation policy. Yeah. So there might be games where you run Lowry out there, and he plays 28 minutes, and he's playing with not those guys. Yeah. He's just playing with a roster that isn't built up of players who the Jazz are fully confident you can win with. I mean, he may just be the odd man out in games, meaning he's in. He's the odd man in those situations. So, and then, don't be surprised if Keontae doesn't play the last 10 games of the year. Yeah. Keontae might not miss. Keontae might only play 30 or 60% of the remaining games, but it might be the next 60. Yeah. 60% all come in the next 20 games, and then he's sitting the close to the season. So, those are the types of things I'm sure are being weighed right now. But the Jazz are losing at a pace that's sustainable to hold on to the pick, and I think they know that.
Next up from Clayson Searle. How much cap space will the Jazz have this summer, assuming they keep Walker and renounce the rest of the free agents? Also, how much do you think Nurk will be paid next summer?
Nurk's probably looking at about 10 or 12.
Yes.
Would be my guess. Let's see. I think the projected salary cap's at like 150 next year. And right now, this is according to Basketball Reference. They have the Jazz on the hook for only $104 million. Now that is obviously not going to include a Walker Kessler contract, right? Which is going to skyrocket. Yes. So, let's conservatively say that's $25 million. Now you're like, you have $14 million to play with, and you just start some of those points. And again, I'm not like a capologist guy. I have to reread it every year, and then I know it really well for 3 weeks at the beginning of July, and then it all leaves my head again because it is only so relevant during that stretch for me. It's not really how I love covering basketball. It's like all the cap stuff. Some people really like it. Dan Clayton, his brother really like it locally. It's like those are good. Those guys really know it very well. The Jazz, and then at some points what I'm trying to say is like when you only have 13 million salary cap space, sometimes it's better to just use your full mid-level exception. Like there are so many weird little rules in there in the NBA, which is why I have to reteach it to myself every summer. That's where it starts to get a little bit hazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, if Nurk signs for 10 or more, 12, and Walker wants 25, so it's 37, like that's your money. Yeah. Which again is why I've kind of said like, oh, well, maybe you trade your first round pick to try and get something back. And by the way, that's exactly why the Jazz didn't sign Walker last year. Like that money goes away immediately. That's $25 million that goes away immediately. If you were to have signed him last season, you would go in with even less flexibility.
Yes.
Now, while he actually has a $14 million cap hold, I think is what his number is, or maybe they were saving. Again, this is where it gets so hairy. No, the cap hold is like, it's a percentage of what his salary is right now. His salary is only $4 million this season. So it's like half of that or whatever. Again, I know this is really bad podcasting. I apologize. Like, that's why the Jazz did what they did last season, though, was to go into the summer with way more cap flexibility. Yes. They don't have a ton, is the truth. But I still think they have the second lowest payroll going into the season next year on the books currently, behind the Brooklyn Nets, who have like $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Like, their whole salary cap is available outside of the rookies that they drafted last year. So, sorry, I know that's not the best answer to that question. They have some flexibility. It's not like 2 max slots flexibility. You're not going to see that in the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
This is a funny thing, though. Going into next year, Ace Bailey is the Jazz's second highest paid player.
That's crazy.
That gives you some sense of their flexibility. It's Lowry at 40 and Ace at 9.5.
Yeah.
So assuming that they waive Kyle Anderson's 9.5 non-guaranteed.
Yeah. Next up from Kenneth Shelton, he asks, is Zion worth the risk of trading
No.
for? I agree.
And
if so, why and what would you have to give up?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing, and I wouldn't give up anything for him.
Mm-mm.
I wouldn't try it. He's too injury prone. He clearly doesn't care enough. When he is on the floor, they're okay, but they're not like, man, when he plays, they're 19-1. And when he doesn't play, it's like they don't matter when he's on the floor. They lose horrible games when he does play. I've probably watched the Pelicans the second most of any team in the NBA this season behind the Jazz. I don't know why. Just kind of their window. It's like maybe when I'm like settling down to watch a Jazz game and there's an hour before tip-off and it's a road game and I'm not there, I'll just watch the Pelicans because I'm always curious to see what Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears look like. And they're just like, it just doesn't matter when Zion's on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't. I'm way more interested in Trey Murphy and Herb Jones and like what those guys do. So no, I would just flush the Zion thing. Let somebody else let the Kings go mess with Zion. Like, truthfully, like that. Good for you.
Yeah.
Sign him and let the Knicks have him be their sixth man. Like that's honestly what Zion's future should look like.
Yeah, and it's if Zion had any market, he would already be gone.
I think so. Yeah.
I think the Pelicans are like, okay, we have this number 1 overall pick. No way we're trading him for a Trae Young package, but you're going to end up trading him for a Trae Young package.
Yep, exactly right.
Next up from Sad Jazz Fan. Are Clayton's struggles from 3 just due to being a rookie and adjusting to NBA speed and schedule, or is there real concern that his size and form are going to limit his ability to shoot in the NBA?
He does kind of have a weird slingshot form. Like, he really kind of throws it by the side of his head, like it's hard to get it there. He'll be just fine. He's going to be a great three-point shooter.
I agree.
Yeah, it does. It is weird he's shooting poorly. I am surprised. Yes, I think it fully has to do with his rookie year. Keontae couldn't shoot all his first 2 years, and now was a great three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. Walt is a much better shooter than Keontae naturally, so that will come along. And Walt's been better at some of the other stuff. I mean, I know, again, off-season conversations I had with people, they were like, we just like Walt because he's a difficult shot maker. Not we just. That's the wrong way to phrase that. But they liked Walt because he was a difficult shot maker, made big threes. It's like he's actually way more of a point guard, I think, than maybe the Jazz expected. Yeah. And has some more of those skills, makes some really nice reads. And then when the three-point shooting comes along, he just has a chance to be really, really solid backup point guard.
Yes. Next up from Hayden, Tim McMahon reported the Wizards are planning on giving Kessler a large offer this offseason. What are the odds the Jazz, and it gives you some multiple choice, trade Kessler to the Wiz to get value, match the Wizards offer, or let Kessler walk for nothing?
So this is the Simone Fontecchio situation from a couple of years ago. Detroit was going to give Simone a bunch of money. The Jazz weren't going to give Simone $12 million, so they said, fine, we will trade Simone to you for a second-round pick, and that pick turned into Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah.
So that's what you're laying out here. It is certainly possible, I guess, and it's tampering. You float a player who's not a free agent right now that you're going to sign him. That's not super kosher, but who cares? Yeah, the Jazz could look at it, but again, he's restricted. Yeah. The Jazz could just say, man, you like him this much? We'll trade you when he's worth this much. That's the nice thing about where the Jazz are. The thing is, if the Wizards give Walker the contract, say it's 4 years, $100 million, just to give us a square number, the Jazz can match and then can't trade him to the Wizards. You can't trade him to the team that offered him the deal for a year. It's one of those weird things to make sure the teams don't circumvent that rule of how do we get you paid. Now, you can do a sign and trade, but you can't do we'll sign you and then 6 months later trade you at the trade deadline to that team, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just like, no, we'll just sign you. We don't care.
Yeah.
And look, we have seen this happen. This is what the Phoenix Suns did with DeAndre Ayton. They let the Indiana Pacers give DeAndre Ayton a max contract offer. The Suns matched it. They probably shouldn't have, but they matched it. And then they ended up trading him to Portland like a couple of years later. Now, it was for Yusuf Nurkic. They didn't get a huge haul for him, but I do think the Jazz recognize that. In fact, they lost that trade because they also gave up Toumani Camara, which is crazy. But the Jazz recognize if you give Walker or whatever, you can trade Walker.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think there's some real fear that Walker's going to leave for nothing. The Jazz would rather just overpay him and bring him back and either let him develop into a good player or trade him.
Yeah.
And then you can do that later. I just don't think you can trade him to the team that signed him to the restricted deal.
That's the game with free agency for teams trying to pull a player away is can we overpay him so much that you just don't want to do it? And I don't think the Wizards would do that. And I agree, unless it's like some absolutely absurd number, the Jazz will just match it.
Yep.
So last question, I believe I'll refresh in a second. Do you think the Jazz's next big hurdle is finding true two-way guys? It feels like we're really offense heavy. Do you think we've been drafting offensive players and hoping the defense translate? Or is defense something you either have or don't? Or can it be developed over time?
It can be developed. Look at Keontae George and kind of what we talked about. You know, Devin Booker was truly the worst defensive player in the NBA for a long time, and then was a truly good defensive player when they made the finals.
Yes.
So you can pick it up. It certainly can be learned. I guess I would disagree as the Jazz aren't drafting defensive players. Like, that's what Cody is. That's what Taylor was, and we'll see what Taylor's obviously just like not ready to be in the rotation right now for whatever reason. We know the reason he broke his leg last year. Ace Bailey's a good defensive player. Like, Ace Bailey's going to be a good defender.
Yeah.
So I actually think the Jazz are going to be fine defensively. I think the Jazz are going to find defensive pieces that work. It's just not where they are now. And yes, I do think the Jazz decided, let's draft good scorers late in the first round, Bryce Sensabaugh, Kyle Filipowski, Walt Clayton, and see if they can turn into something as offensive players, and then maybe they develop defensively.
Yeah.
And Walt's a pretty good defensive player, too. Like, I think he's going to be a good defender. He's little, but he's actually not, like, he's as tall as Keontae. Yeah. He looks a little smaller right now just because I don't think his body is where it needs to be. But Keontae's been in the NBA for 3 years. It took him a while to figure it out. Like, let Walt develop for 2 more years, and he's going to look great, too. So that is part of it. And then, yeah, I think the Jazz this summer will look at defensive-minded players.
Agreed.
But, you know, when you have Yusuf Nurkic and Kevin Love as like your anchor paired with Lowry, like that's a bad defensive front. Lowry paired with Walker is probably a much better defensive front.
Yes.
You know, and then all these other guys start to look better, and Cody will start to look better, and Ace will start to look better. So while the Jazz are a disaster defensively, and they just gave up 147 points to the Miami Heat, they are. I don't think it's like stuck that way. It doesn't have to be.
One more, actually. 2 questions from Kodon. He says, do you think the Jazz front office will try to hire a defensive expert to assist Will for next season? First question.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think they like the
I think
coaching
Will
staff
also
as it
has
is.
kind of carte blanche over his staff. Now, look, who's the Orlando Magic head coach? Jamal Mosley. He's like maybe the best defensive coach in the NBA, like outside of Tibbs or whatever. But if Jamal Mosley gets fired by the Magic, very realistic, it could happen. They've been pretty disappointing this year. And the Jazz wanted to add another guy to their staff. Like, that would make sense. I don't think the Jazz are mandating, though, like, who's going to be your D coordinator. In fact, that's Scott Morrison's job, I believe, right now. The Jazz, he was the Stars head coach. Will Hardy actually replaced him as the Celtics head coach or as assistant coach when Will got that job. I think that is his job, and he's very smart. He knows what he's doing. So I don't think the Jazz necessarily need that.
And last one here. Is there any specific role that Dwayne Wade holds in the Jazz? Is he spending time with the team and with the players?
The players do like Dwayne Wade. They've kind of talked about him being around. Like, he's not around very often. He was really around those first couple of years. I think he had to feel that out. Like, what's my job? What do I have to be here?
Yeah.
What do you need me for? And then you realize it's like, oh, it's a work from home situation. I don't need to be in the office every day. So I don't think there's a lot, in all honesty. I think when Ryan Smith first came onto the scene, and then, Dwayne Wade bought in, a few months after that? Maybe it was even a year after that, after he bought it. I can't remember exactly the timeline. I think it was a year. I think it was probably still early enough for Ryan to kind of figure out, like, what works, what helps, what doesn't help, not saying Dwayne Wade doesn't help, but, like, what do I need day to day?
Yeah.
And I think he just kind of realized, like, oh, Justin, Danny, Austin, and I should say Austin first, but, like, I'm talking just kind of how long they've been here. Those guys have it covered.
Yeah.
And Dwayne, when we need you, like, great. Like, Carlos Boozer was coming in for pre-draft stuff last year. Like, I do think the Jazz do like having these guys around and bringing them in. And Darren Williams was part of some of the pre-draft stuff, if I remember correctly. And D-Will wasn't on the plane to go get Ace Bailey. That was Booze.
Yes.
But, like, they know where their roles are. Yeah. They know, like, what those guys have value. And, like, Dwayne Wade has real cachet still. But he doesn't need to be around every day. Yeah. So, yeah, I just think it's pretty minor.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's it for the mailbag.
All right. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. A little shorter than some, but still, I think we're close to an hour.
Yes.
So appreciate everybody listening. I believe DJ and I will be back on Thursday regardless. Chandler and I will be back next Monday. I think this worked on YouTube. Appreciate it. It worked last week, so that's always very good. And find us on KSLSports.com, social media at Ben's Hoops or C Holt Sports. We'll talk to you next week.